Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome to another TV Parts Today teardown tutorial. In today's video we are going to be going into a Sony unit model XBR-75X850C. We are going to be teaching you how to take the back plate off as well as how to swap the boards out of the back. If you have any questions about your specific repair, you can give us a call at 930-212-1975 and let's get right into it. We have the back of the television laid out here. Before we can actually remove this back plate, we are going to need to access this small door right here. This will be the power cable from the wall running to the power supply board inside of the TV. We're going to have to get this screw out of here as well as this plate and also get the power cable removed from the power supply. So first things first, we're going to take our screw gun, get this one screw out of here. And do keep in mind, if these Sony televisions, there will be about 2 or 3 different sizes of screws. We're going to want to make sure that we keep them separate so they know where they go on the back of the television. What I like to do is take a sheet of paper, I'll make a small diagram of the back of the TV, and then you can just lay the screw right on the piece of paper where it goes in the back of the TV, so there's no question about where it goes when we're getting it back together. But first thing that we're going to do with this plate, it does kind of just lift right out after we get the screw. We can shuffle this small plastic piece off and just set it to the side. Now we do have the power cable connected to the power supply board. There is just one small latch that we depress. This is a small lever right here. We can depress that with our thumbnail or our thumb, and it just slides right out of the power supply. So now that we have that away, we are going to focus on the screws in the television. I'm going to start with the screws going around the outside of this plastic back plate. This part up here is not necessarily going to give us access to the boards. We can leave that alone, but let's get started on these screws. I did notice as I was taking the screws out, we are missing 2 screws from our unit right here. So you will have 2 screws right here that need to come out as well. After all of the screws are taken out, we can just lift up on this back plate, set it off to the side, and now we can get to those boards in the back of the unit. First up is the main board. We are going to make ourselves just a little bit of space here. We can take these little plastic flashing pieces. They just slide right out with a little bit of wiggling. No problem, we can set those off to the side. We're going to want to get all of the connections away from the outside of the board. Let's start here with this guy. We're going to push down on this small flap, this small clip on the back, and it just slides right out. This guy, we're going to depress the 2 small clips or levers on the right and left side, and it should just walk right out of there. These 2 ribbon cable connections are going to be a little trickier. We're going to want to take our time with those and be very careful. There are 2 buttons, one on the left side, one on the right side of this connection. We're going to want to depress both of those and then slide the ribbon cable connection out. So we depress both of the buttons on the right and left side, and it just walks right out. It's the exact same thing with this, except there is just one large button. It's like a bar that runs across the entirety of the ribbon cable connection. We're going to push that down with our finger, and then it just walks right out. This guy is going to have a lever on the back that we can depress with our thumbnail or our thumb, and it just comes right out of there. Now that we have all the connections away, we're going to get the screws out and the board should come away from the chassis. After we get all the screws out, we should just be able to lift this board up and away. It does feel like there's a little bit of adhesive keeping it on there. We don't want to force it. We just want to take our time, pop that adhesive very gently, and that is the main board. Next up is the sub power supply. What we're going to start with is releasing all of these connections away from the board, and then we're going to work on the screws. This guy right here, we're going to depress that lever with our thumbnail. Comes right out. We're going to depress this lever with our thumbnail. Should just walk right away from the board. And exact same thing with this guy. You can see this lever right here. We're going to push that down, unclipping it, and just walk it right away from the board. Now we've got 4 or 5 screws and we're ready to go. After our screws come out, the board just lifts up and away from the chassis, and that's the sub power supply. Next up is the power supply board. We're going to follow the exact same thing that we did with the sub power supply. We're going to get all these connections free from the board, and then we're going to work on the screws. So we'll start with this guy right here. There's a small lever on the back that we want to depress with our finger or our thumbnail, and it slides right away. This guy's going to be the same thing. We're going to depress that lever, walk it out. These two, absolutely identical. Depress the lever, walk it away. Depress the lever, walk it away. Now we got 4 or 5 screws or so, and we are ready to move on. Now with the screws out of the board, we can just lift this up, and that is our power supply board. Last up is the T-Con board, and as you can see here, it is buried. It is underneath a metal plate. There are wires going over that metal plate. There is the IR sensor and the Wi-Fi board that are over the plate. There are also these plastic housing pieces that'll have to come out, and we'll just go through this step by step. So I think the first step here, we're gonna mess with the IR sensor. So if we lift this up and flip it over, we'll notice that there are 3 cords, cables attached here in various places. We're going to start with this one. We're going to depress this with our thumbnail, slides right out. If we flip it over, we can see another clip right here, very similar. We're going to depress that with our thumbnail, slide it right out. This is the cable for the antenna for the Wi-Fi board. We can kind of just jiggle that, wiggle it just a little bit. We do want to be gentle that we don't actually pop this golden plug off of there. And then next, what we're going to do is kind of go over some damage that we found when we got the back plate off. So there should be 2 housing pieces, one here and one here, and they do look like this, these black pieces with the holes in them for the screws. Those do set in place there. What we'll have to do to get those away is take these 2 black screws at the bottom of this plate off. After we do that, those should lift away. That's no problem at all. Let's make ourselves a little bit of space, make ourselves a little bit of room. We're gonna work on these pieces of tape. We're gonna get them up so that we have a little bit more movement in these cables, and that's about all that we're gonna get, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and get this plug while we're here. We just depress this with our thumbnail and it walks right away from the T-Con board. That's no problem. Let's go ahead and work on these screws, get this metal plate up, and then we'll see what we're working with underneath. Okay, so now that we have these screws away, we should be able to lift up this metal plate. It doesn't feel like there's anything actually keeping the T-Con board attached to the chassis, so we are going to be a little careful here. And it looks like what's in our way right now are these 2 ribbon cable connections. So we're going to depress the buttons on the right and left side, and those just walk right away from the T-Con board. That should allow this plate to lift up and away, and we can set it off to the side. There are 4 ribbon cable connections here that we're going to have to deal with. We just pop up the little black tabs with our fingernail, and these should just come right out of here. We do want to be very gentle so that we don't cause any damage, and that looks like it for the T-Con board. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions about this or any other TV repair, you can give us a call at 930-212-1975. You can send us an email at info@tvpartstoday.com. That's info@tvpartstoday.com. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and we will see you next time.